This video is going to show you how to win Risk every time. First, we're going to look at the continents, the pros and cons of each, and which continents you should capture. Next, Risk has very unique dice mechanics, so we'll look at those so that you know when to attack and when not to. Then, we'll analyze the method of attack, including where to place your troops and what to do with your cards. Then finally, forming alliances and taking the risk. If you gain value from this video, give it a like, or else YouTube will conquer your territories. Write a comment about anything, and if this video brings in 1,000 new subscribers, how about I'll make a video on whatever is asked for most in the comments. First, we're going to look at the continents, but before we get into what you should capture, we're going to look at the pros and cons of the 6 continents. Sorry, Antarctica. Just like the real world map, the continents vary considerably. Asia is the largest continent and comes with the largest continent bonus and has the most borders to defend. Anyone who's played Risk knows that Asia is nearly impossible to capture and hold. Not only is Asia the most difficult continent to capture, but if you do succeed in capturing it, you'll be the #1 target of every other player who will make it a priority to make sure you don't collect your continent bonus. That being said, Asia can be very useful, and we'll look at that in more detail later in the video. Europe and North America both come with a continent bonus of 5, with Europe having 7 territories and North America 9. The discrepancy in continent size is due to Europe's central location and North America's isolated location. Just ask the Germans, trying to fight a war on multiple fronts is going to lead to a bad time. This size and isolation makes North America the strategically strongest continent on the board. Like Europe, Africa suffers from a central location, and then, while small, South America and Australia are relatively easy to conquer and defend. There are countless ways to win Risk, but we'll look at the 4 strategies with the most viable paths to victory. The most well-known and fan favorite of the guy who knows the perfect solution to traffic and how to coach your favorite sports team is the Australia strategy. Australia is by far the easiest continent to capture and defend, with just 4 territories and 1 border. However, that border is with Asia. On its own, it doesn't have the firepower to keep up, meaning you have to expand outside of its limits, defeating the perk of the single border to defend. If someone wants to fight you for it, it will take significantly more resources to fight for it than it will provide in return. That being said, Australia makes a great supplemental continent if it's far behind your front lines and not your main priority. South America is also easy to start out with, but unlike Australia feeding into Asia, South America borders 2 much easier continents to capture, North America and Africa. Starting with Africa can be difficult because you'll have to defend from South America, but starting with South America into Africa is an advantageous direction to proceed. As you strengthen your foothold in Africa, South America becomes more and more defensible, as long as, just like in real life, you keep the connection between North and South America untraversable. Quick shout out to anyone who's made a Darien Gap video. Keeping this border untraversable is also advantageous for North America. North America's power lies in its isolation. Having borders with Europe and Asia, North America can keep these continents in check while staying isolated enough to hold onto its continent bonus. From here, you can take the Western Hemisphere, and then the world. However, you do not want to get into a drawn-out conflict here. North America's power lies in its isolation, so spending resources in a drawn-out conflict defeats the purpose. And avoiding conflict is one of the keys to Risk. Which brings up the 4th strategy, the Mongol Horde. Just like the Mongols, it involves conquering wide swaths of mostly inhospitable land in Asia and making raids into nearby territories. The goal here isn't to try and capture and defend Asia, but to expand low-stakes territory to grow your territory bonus, while also growing your cards and building a horde. As we will get into with dice mechanics, attacking carries better odds than defending, and staying away from conflict early is a major advantage. No one is going to attack Ural when it has 20 troops and is defending nothing. So if you can capture 15 or more territories, it can work as a de facto continent bonus without having a highly contested territory to defend. That being said, most of your territory will be exposed ones, so if someone catches on to you, your territories can be quickly eliminated. So it requires consistently staying on the offensive as opposed to the defensive tactics of maintaining a continent. This isn't all bad though, because the dice mechanics of the game make offense more powerful than defense. The dice mechanics of Risk are incredibly complex, and they are also independent events, meaning one dice roll does not affect the next dice roll. That means, if you lost 3 straight attacks, the 4th attack has the same odds as the first. However, we're going to keep it simple. Attacking is significantly more advantageous than defending. And while defense always wins with a 6, attacking with 3 or more troops against 1 defending troop is almost an automatic victory. We can dig up some dice charts and get into the nitty-gritty, and there are some fantastic online resources that will show you exact dice odds based on numbers attacking and numbers defending, but they're independent events, meaning, while rare, you could attack and win 20 in a row, or lose 20 in a row. Therefore, given 20 versus 20, there is a 57% chance the attacker wins. If the attacker wins the first dice roll, it is now a 68% chance of winning, while if they lose the first dice roll, the odds are just 45% of winning. These numbers vary, as this is an incredibly complex calculation. This means you need to use a mix of your gut and judgment when attacking. If you have 20 troops attacking a 16 and you lose 6 straight troops, the 14 might still beat the 16, but the odds are fundamentally different from the start. For the dice, despite incredibly complex mechanics, have a very simple rule of thumb. Attacking with 3 or more armies against 1 defender is strategically optimal, and attacking 3 dice against 2 defending dice is also long-term advantageous. This is important because it's going to be the backbone of your method of attack. Your turn consists of 3 parts: placing troops, attacking, and fortifying. So let's start in the middle with attack. The Risk territories are jagged, unbalanced, and uneven. This makes your route of attack incredibly important. Just like Snake, you gotta get your route accurate. I'm gonna let you use your common sense for this one, and it's case by case, but for example, let's look at South America. You have 25 troops in North Africa, and you're taking them to North America, and you're capturing South America along the way. If you go Brazil to Peru, you have to leave 3 troops in Argentina, because of course you maximize your dice odds and attacked full force. But if you attack Brazil to Argentina, you can then use your full force on Argentina, Peru, Venezuela, and Central America. This gets more complex in continents like Asia and Europe, but do the same thing: attack and align. For long attacks with lots of troops, like when you cash in cards, you want to plan your line ahead of time so that you maximize your odds. Your troops and cards will play an important role in the game, as they will provide the firepower to make large offensive surges. This is the part of the video where I have to throw out the disclaimer. Not every version of Risk has the same bonus card structure. If you're playing the board game, like on an actual board, your cards go up 2 at a time based on other players until 15, where they go up 5 at a time, and you can't hold more than 5 or 6 cards at the beginning of your turn. If you play on, say, a Nintendo Switch, your cards are a much more individual venture, as holding 6 to 10 cards provides the highest bonuses, while less than 6 is punished. So, what should you do? With the board version, it makes a little more sense to cash in your cards as soon as possible to strengthen your territories and continents, to both make more attacks and try to get the most continent bonuses, while the video game version lends itself more to maintaining your position, reaching 10 cards, and taking your risk. Key maneuver we're getting to soon. When you're placing your troops, you need to have the endgame in mind, while also giving yourself some wiggle room. Let's say you're about to capture North America, but the enemy troops are cut off from the main forces. You don't want to miss the opportunity to capture North America, but if you put all of your new troops there, you won't be maximizing your attack. You also don't want to put the minimum needed troops because if you don't capture the continent, it's a major blunder. So, you should give yourself a safety factor of a few troops and put the rest into the main battle. Even though it's not always a mathematical advantage, it's not a terrible idea to make defenses look bigger than they are. For example, if holding North America is a priority, putting 6 or 7 troops in Central America might make North America look harder to capture than it really is and deter others from attacking. When fortifying, you'll have any one of 3 objectives: either getting into position for attacking on your next turn, reinforcing a front, or getting troops out of the way. Often, if you've captured a lot of territories on your turn, your troops will end up far behind your front lines, so you'll need to move them back into an attacking position. Then, if one of your territories is exposed, you might want to help reinforce it. Or you might end your turn somewhere like North Africa with 6 troops, knowing they are now in the way of an attack. Since they are unlikely to win, you're basically throwing these troops away, keeping them put. So you might want to relocate them somewhere else so that they can be used as attackers on your next turn. Keeping yourself able to attack is important, both for gaining cards and playing the odds. It's also important for an alliance. The rules of Risk heavily favor those in the lead. Therefore, out of pure survival, players will have to gang up on the leader to stay in the game. The enemy of my enemy is my friend is the custom of Risk alliances. If you appear too strong, players will gang up on you, making your path to victory harder. This means you need to appear non-threatening or irrelevant. For an in-person game, take a debate course if you want to be very slick with negotiation, but all you need to establish is that you're not a threat, but someone else is. If you're playing a video game version where you aren't able to communicate, the process is similar. Stay out of the way and let others beat each other up. As long as everyone is close in strength, every battle fought with troops that aren't yours makes you stronger. You can form formal alliances, or alliances out of necessity, but there can only be one winner. That brings us to the name of the game: taking the risk. Just like asking out your crush, you're going to put it all on the line. As you can imagine, if you attack your ally, you'd better be ready to win, because that alliance is over. Taking the risk when you're not ready has compounding negative effects. Not only have you burned your bridges and used up your resources, but you also will likely appear to now be the main threat on the board, causing everyone to attack you. If you're cowardly and wait too long to take the risk, you'll miss the golden window of attack and will be attacking an opponent too strong to defeat. So, when do you take your risk? Some of it is intuition, some is based on bonuses. Every game is somewhat different in this regard, but the ultimate position to land on is to put your opponents into catch-22, where maybe you own all of Asia, North America, and South America, and your opponent has to pick the lesser of 2 evils. With this many territories, the territories work as a de facto continent bonus, meaning if your opponents have to scramble to keep you in check, they have to use everything they have to keep you from winning, while you can perpetually out-attrition them by getting more troops every turn. An ideal time for your risk might be after an opponent has played their cards, but you still have cards. If you can appear irrelevant, your opponent might use their new card troops to attack another player, giving you the opportunity to easily pick up the aftermath. While taking the risk is, as indicated, a risky moment, if your fundamentals are sound, you should feel confident you're about to take an insurmountable lead. Those are all the tactics you need to win Risk. If there's another game you think should be covered, write it in the comments. Again, if this video brings in over 1,000 new subscribers, I'll make a video on whichever topic is asked for most in the comments. Give this video a like, and thank you for watching.